Welcome everyone to episode 69.
Why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing. Nice. Of the Circle Back Podcast. I'm Dan LaMarca. As always, I'm joined by Dan Dufresnoy.
That's me.
And Shelby White.
How are we doing?
Doing fantastically. Thank you for asking, Shelb.
That's what I'm here for.
I have a ton of games to talk to you about.
Guys, listen, this happened last time. We talk before the show. We ask about our lives and our day. You know, don't be making it like I don't care.
I would never.
I care about you more than anything.
Dan, I would never say that,
Thanks,
buddy.
bud.
I have a ton of new games to talk about. That's why I'm so excited. All right, I'm going to give you guys a choice. You ready? We have a platformer, a tactics game, or a computer RPG. Which one do we want to hear about
Computer
first?
RPG.
Computer
RPG.
All right. You agree, Shelb?
Yes.
All right, then I'm going to talk about my favorite game that I played out of this whole list.
Oh, should we save the best for last?
No, we'll do it right now.
All right.
It's called Disco Elysium.
Okay.
Have you guys heard of this game?
No.
Yes.
You have?
Yes. Just like 2 days ago.
Disco Elysium
Just 2 seconds ago.
just came out last week. And I'm just going to preface it by saying, if Outer Wilds did not come out this year, I think it might be my game of the year.
What?
Wow.
It is that good of a game. This game is
I gotta look
absolutely incredible. You should take a look at some images of it at least. I'm going to give you the pitch, all right? The game opens up, and it's darkness with text coming up on the right. And it says, basically, your lizard brain is talking to you.
Your lizard brain?
Yeah,
Yeah.
your ancient reptilian brain.
Oh, of course.
Love it.
And it's telling you basically that you're worthless and you should stay in this like comatose state forever. And it's like basically ridiculing you. You're talking back to it. And then your limbic system comes in with this really creepy voice. And it's like trying to tell you to get up and, you know, you got to do things, get up. So you eventually get up. And it cuts to you. You're like a middle-aged man, balding, big mutton chops. You're laying on the ground in your underwear in like what looks like a hotel room, and you are next to like bottles of, you know, vodka or whatever. You get up, and immediately it's a CRPG. So it's Divinity Original Sin, it's Baldur's Gate, it's Planescape Torment. It's that style. It's isometric, point and click RPG, right? So you get up, and here's where it immediately gets you something different. Your clothes are kind of scattered, right? You walk over, double click on your pants, you pick them up, you put them on. Your tie is hanging from the ceiling fan, spinning, right?
Yo, he had a crazy night.
Oh, yeah.
So you go to take your tie off the fan, and there's a skill check. And it's like hand-eye coordination. If you pass your skill check, you get your tie down, you put it on, right? If you fail your skill check, yeah, he has a heart attack. It's the end of the game. You die. Because he's so distraught that he can't even get his tie off the fan. Big one, you go to the mirror, and it's like, oh, you know, the faucet's running. It looks like you broke the handle off last night, and it just won't stop running. So there's some fog on the mirror. Do you want to wipe it and take a look at yourself? And it's like there are passive skill checks firing that even say, all right, do you even have the confidence to look at yourself in the mirror? So you wipe the mirror and you look at yourself. It cuts to like a pastel painting of like really grotesque looking, like caricature kind of this guy's face, and the dialogue literally says, because there's a lot of dialogue inside your head that's going on between your different attributes, which I'll get into more detail. But it literally says, what the hell is that? It's like, what am I looking at? And it's like, what is that face? Is that a smirk? What is this? It's creeping me out. And you can like try to decipher where you recognize that look from. And if you have enough of a certain type of skill, then you can have like a memory of looking at your wife that way or something like that, or something. So now I'll stop and I'll say, the character creator of this game, I took a picture of all the attributes. I'll pass it around after I describe some of them. So it's 4 different categories. It's intellect, psyche, physique, and motorics, or motorics, whatever. Intellect has logic, encyclopedia, rhetoric, drama, conceptualization, and visual calculus. Now, what those do are they're actual things that allow you to have certain conversations or learn certain things. So like if your encyclopedia level is high, when you come across something in the world,
You know what it is.
you'll know. So you'll know like weird, useless trivia. So it'll be like someone will say like an acronym, and then encyclopedia will come up on the right and say, oh, that means this. It's from, whatever date, whatever. If your rhetoric is high, when someone's like having a conversation, like a philosophical or like a, foundational conversation about the world, your rhetoric will pop in and say, oh, they're talking about this, but they don't know about Karl Marx or whatever. Like they'll just say it, and then you can jump in and start talking about it to them, right? Drama is like your ability to lie and act and whatever. So if you have a high drama, there will be different dialogue choices throughout the game, right? Visual calculus would be an example of how you can reenact a crime scene, because you soon find out you're a detective and you have literally no understanding of what happened the past few days. Like you have no memory. You drank yourself into a literal amnesia that you have no idea what happened. You don't remember much about the world, about your life, about anything, right? So the interesting thing about this game, and here you can look at some of these. So the actual skills, there's a drawing for each of them, and they're really incredible drawings that are just like like this whole game is like grotesquely beautiful. Like it's like weird and twisted and unsettling, but like really well done. So what happens is there's no combat in this game. The only thing in this game is you're having discussions with different people, or you can do actions, but they're all dependent on your skills. Okay. So there's a bunch of passive skill checks, like I said, that'll include your different personality traits arguing with themselves in your head, and then you get to make the decision of what you want to do. Now, where it gets really interesting is, so you're a detective, right? The whole reason you're there is you have there's a body hanging in a tree, and you were sent there to investigate who killed this person and take care of the body, whatever. So perfect example of what this game does is you walk up to the body. So you meet your partner and you're like talking to him. You walk up to this body that's hanging from a tree, and you walk over, and your character like starts like gagging because the smell is so bad. It's been there for 5 days or whatever. And your I think it's endurance. Yeah. It will show you, it'll say power through and go to the body anyway. Endurance, and it'll say your percentage chance for an actual dice roll based on your endurance. So like literally, say it says like I had very low endurance. It'll say like 3%. I click on it, literal dice roll on the screen, you get a success or a failure, like a tabletop RPG, right? If you fail, there's a white check and a red check. A white check means you can redo that. You can try that again once you put another point into your endurance, or if you get an item. So your partner's like, I know it's rough. Why don't you go get some ammonia from the store? I'm sure they sell it. You can put some under your nose to help with the smell. So now you come back. You didn't change your endurance, but you got ammonia. You come back. All of a sudden, it says +3 due to ammonia, and now you have a 28% chance or something.
Gotcha.
You get it? So like, that's the game. Yeah. It's talking to people. It's figuring things out. It's failing. It's trying to. It's you're just a bumbling, stupid detective that drinks too much and like whatever. And you're learning about his past, and you're learning about this town you're in, and everything's new to you. And it's just so incredibly well done in every way. Like it is, the writing is sharp, funny, like very biting. I think the only thing, so if people, you can play an hour of this game and say, oh, I hate this, or oh, I'm in love with this. Like, it will be divisive.
Very divisive.
For sure. Because the style of writing and the way it goes can probably be very off-putting to some people. But it's very well done if you're open to it. It's very focused. So, like, you find out basically the crux of the story isn't just, hey, who's this guy and how did he die? There's, like, a labor dispute. There's, like, a union and the scabs that are in there, and there's a lot of politics and a lot of it's very cynical about the world in a good way, and it's well written. The only way I could describe it, it's well written in a way that a good book is well written. Like, it's not. I haven't experienced writing like this in a video game, I think, ever.
Whoa!
But I'm not saying that it's the best book I ever read, but I'm saying it's
like
literary in the way that it's written.
Right. He woke up drunk one day. Now it's time to go to work.
So it's not, it's not from that perspective, but it is that style of, okay, we're painting a picture of what's going on, even though you're looking at it, we're still talking about it. Gotcha. You know what I mean? And because you're constantly hearing from all your different personality traits, you're getting a lot of insight into how people can be perceived. Mm-hmm. It's a hard game to describe, but I played about 10 hours this week, and I can tell you I'm in love with it. It's amazing.
Wow. Love the name, too.
Disco Elysium.
Yeah.
It has such a great style. The look of it is amazing. The music is great. All the writing is amazing. There are all these characters around that are so much fun to learn about and talk to. And a lot of it is, so anytime you talk to somebody, this like portrait will pop up next to them when you talk to them, and it's like a beautiful like caricature of that person that just gives such personality to these people that if you didn't get that sort of thing, you're just, you're pretty far away from them. You can only see certain facial features. So it's just a really cool, really interesting game, and I really, really like it.
Wow, I'm definitely intrigued. You haven't sparked my interest.
It's only on PC, unfortunately. I should have probably said that from the beginning.
Great.
But this is, from what I hear, it's anywhere between 30 to 50 hours. It is a big computer RPG. You're learning a lot of things about this town, about the people. There's this, I'll give you an example. There's this bookstore. You walk in and, this lady's kind of bitchy to you, and she's like, oh, what books do you want, whatever. If you talk to the daughter out front who's like trying to get people in the store, she's like, oh, you like romance? You come in. She's trying to pull people in. If you talk to her, you can like go through some dialogue and find out that her mom thinks the building is haunted, right? So you go in and there's a curtain all the way to the right. You go to like open the curtain and she's like, wait, stop. What are you doing? And then your options are, you can just open the curtain anyway, or you can try to talk to her, and eventually you can say, hey, I know you think this place is haunted. I'm actually like a spirit detective, and I can come do... You know what I mean? It's just a computer RPG in that way of you can fuck things up and do things in a weird way, and you can be a total jerk to people, or you can be like literally... You can do things in so many different ways that it's kind of daunting sometimes, but it leads to really interesting interactions that I think two different people playing the game will have two very different experiences.
So I like when like a game, like the permutations are just
huge.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Incredible.
That like your experience is solely dependent on every, like in very few games do it seems like to this extent.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
And I will say a couple of things I want to hit about this game is one big one. You're a David Lynch fan, right? Like,
I love David. Yeah, of course.
So one of the physical attributes is called Inland Empire, which is
that's what I was moving. Yeah.
And it's basically the weird, the strange, like it's like a waking dream is the way it's described, which is very Lynchian. If you have 5 points or more in Inland Empire, which when you level up, you put a point into one of your attributes, you start seeing things a little differently.
Interesting.
And like maybe inanimate objects start talking to you, and now you can learn things about the world that you wouldn't have normally learned.
I love that so much.
So very interesting, cool things going on. I will talk about one other aspect. So you have your skills basically, which are your physical emotions, attributes, thoughts, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But there are also things, there's something called the thought cabinet, which is another thing that you can put things into. When you talk to somebody in the world and they leave an impression on you, whether it's good or bad or otherwise, you get a thought about that. And you can choose to pursue that thought further. So like say you talk to somebody, you learn about something, like in real life. Say you talk to somebody and they're telling you about how their people are treated in their country, right? You now are like, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that. Now you can just, that's it, and then not think any more of that. Or you can say, you know what, I kind of want to learn more about that. Let me look stuff up and read about or whatever. That's like what they're going for with this thought cabinet, because you have a list of thoughts that you gain from people, and there's a timer on each of them. So 6 in-game hours. In-game, like, there's an in-game clock that I'll talk about quick. But 6 in-game hours later, if you're pursuing this thought in one of your slots in the thought cabinet, you then learn something. And that can give you positive or negative attributes or it could change the game a little bit. Like,
that's so cool.
Yeah, like I said a couple of things that were like, made me feel sorry for myself because I'm like such a loser. And it was like self-examination was one of my thoughts. And when I pursued it for however many hours, at the end it was like, yeah, you came out of this and now you're like a little tougher on yourself. So it's like -1 to volition, but +2 to like self-awareness or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's so interesting and unique.
It sounds super in-depth.
It is, but it's really well done. I'll talk about the time mechanic too. So you're interviewing people and talking to different people throughout the day to try to find out about the murder or just talking to people, whatever. Time moves forward in the game only when you're in a conversation. But your day ends. And there's a set number, like you're here for 1 week, I think, or something.
Oh, so you put the pants back on the floor, the tie back on the fan, and you take another nap.
Exactly. But the time is important because it's a resource. You can only talk to so many people. And so your in-game hours, what I was talking about, the thought cabinet, is actually like what you're doing in the game. So like when you're investigating, when I got the body down finally, which is a crazy story that I'll say for Game of the Year. But when I got the body down, we did an autopsy, me and my partner, a field autopsy. And we learned a ton of stuff out about how the person was killed, blah, blah, whatever. And that takes up a portion of your time. You didn't have to do that. But the world will react. They don't want the body hanging in this courtyard, and people will continue to bring it up to you. And like,
if you don't do anything,
that's what I'm trying to explain is like, I sound like I'm gushing too much, but it's a very unique and an interesting experience. Cool. It draws a lot from Planescape Torment with all the dialogue and the permutations, but I don't think I played a game quite like this, and it's really something special.
Oh man,
yeah,
nice pitch.
Disco Elysium,
very much so, right?
Yeah,
Disco
what a
Elysium, pitch. Yeah. I don't know if it like what kind of specs it needs. I don't know if you can have a laptop and play it.
That's what I mean. My computer's crap.
I'll have to
so
look.
I don't know.
Yeah. But it's something I really would highly recommend to people. It's $40 on Steam.
Cool.
And it's awesome.
Oh, especially if you're saying it's like 30 to 50 hours.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right,
That's
on. Fantastic, right?
It's really fucking good, man. All right, move on to something a little lighter. Me and Shelby have been playing Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair.
Ooh, tell me about this, guys.
Lair.
It's fantastic.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's really good. Like, I'm so happy that they continued with this IP because this game feels like, I mean, I know it's not in the 3D space, but
it's Donkey Kong Country more than
it's like Donkey Kong Country, but it feels like it has the dialogue, the whippiness of Laylee,
yes.
Like it feels like that Banjo-Kazooie spiritual successor.
But that's what I'll say is the original Yooka-Laylee I didn't like.
No,
and
it wasn't a good game.
It wasn't a good game, but it had a good heart and a good style.
Yeah.
And they kept that, but then they made a good game.
Yes.
This is a 2D side-scroller in the vein of Donkey Kong Country, like I said.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ex-Rare people that work at Playtonic. They know what they're doing because the game plays really well. And it does such an interesting thing that I don't think I've seen before, where the overworld is a 3D space, but from the top-down view. So you play as Yooka-Laylee in the overworld, and there are a ton of secrets to discover, a ton of different things to find in the overworld. And then you go into the level, and it's a 2D side-scroller.
That's cool.
And every level has an A and a B side to it.
That's the coolest thing is you find pretty early that...
Yeah, it's like in the... Yeah.
In the overworld, you change... So the levels are presented as like books on the ground in a world, right?
Yeah, I think you're collecting pages and stuff like that.
Yeah. But there's books. The levels are literally books on the ground. And so an example would be, okay, the book is laying in the bottom of this dried up lake bed. If you pull a handle and now water runs through onto the book, you go back into that level. Now it's an underwater level.
Oh, wow.
And it's a completely...
awesome.
It's the same structure, but it's a completely new level.
That's cool.
And
So
it's not the only example of that. You know, like I don't want to spoil.
Yeah, we can't say
spoil
too
them all,
many, but say you
just
can do
flooding-
one more.
Yeah, flooding a level with water is not just one example.
Okay,
you know, like there's a
gotcha.
whole.
There's one that's
Slow.
it's this like side-scrolling level with like fountains that spurt up and then go down. You can freeze it, and then those are just pillars of frozen water, and it's a totally different level.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like they're doing really cool stuff.
Wait, so how many levels? So
It's a pretty big game.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, I feel like I've put about maybe 8 to 10 hours into it, and I've
Wow.
unlocked maybe a quarter of the
No kidding.
quarter. Yeah, somewhere around there.
That's amazing.
It's cool. And they even like there's a few times you talk to characters and they like comment on like the last game not really being up to snuff.
They do.
Like they snap on
It's that
themselves.
Banjo-Kazooie self-awareness.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh man,
it's
And,
a really good game.
another
Yeah.
game I gotta get now.
And
This
it-
game is $30.
Yeah, and what's really cool about it is you go into this game and not in a bad way. You go into the game, you can go to the final level right away.
Yeah.
Really?
Go to the
It's
final
really
level
cool, yeah.
right away, and they make you try it once.
Chrono Trigger.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they make you try it once, and then you realize that you should play
Because
the rest of the game.
what you're doing is every time
Yeah.
you beat a level, you gain a B, which basically takes one hit.
Yeah.
So normally the way it works is if you get hit in a level, Laylee
Flies away.
and then you're just Yuka the chameleon. And if you get hit again, you're dead.
Gotcha. It's like
You can
ghosting
grab
rules.
Laylee.
It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she flies away, kind of like Baby Mario. She'll be floating around. You can pick her up and save her and put her back on your back, and then you have 2 hits again. With the bees that you're collecting in the Impossible Lair, which is the final level, each bee that you get, you beat an A side, you get a B. You beat the B side, you get another B. So there are like 40 bees. I think there are 20 levels.
They're called
or
your
something.
Beatalion.
Yeah, the Beatalion.
Yeah.
And they take 1 hit each.
Yeah.
So right now I have like 20 bees in my Beatalion.
Gotcha. So when you do the
And
final
they help
level,
you
it's
get
easy
through
I
the
can
final
get
level,
hit
yeah.
20 times before I'm dead. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's the whole structure of the game. It's really, really cool.
Cool
I will
concept,
say,
yeah.
what a beautiful game. It is
Yeah.
so good looking. It is beautiful. The music is amazing. It's Grant Kirkhope and David Wise who did all the Rare games
Yeah.
in the past, which have such good soundtracks. Donkey Kong Country, DK64, which isn't a good game, but has a great soundtrack.
Oh yeah. Banjo.
Yeah, Banjo.
It
Like,
has that like when you go into like a doot doot, you know, like kind of like I don't even
It
know.
feels
it's like
like
a
it,
steel
man.
drum.
It's-
It sounds like it.
it's really,
It's a fantastic
really
Switch game.
a great game. It's on the Switch.
Oh,
It's
it's on
on.
Switch.
It's
PS4.
on PS4. It's on PC.
Yeah,
It's $30 everywhere. I highly recommend
yeah.
it.
I'm currently playing on Switch. I love it.
Wow.
It's a great game.
Yeah,
Looks like I gotta work more so I can buy all these games.
definitely recommend.
All right. Dan, I know you've been dipping into your Dark Souls Remastered.
Oh yeah, to be fair, I haven't really played much since last we were together, but yeah, I just decided I love Bloodborne, I love Sekiro, and I've played Dark Souls before, but I never beat it. And I was like, you know what, it's about time, to beat it. I had a little bit of free time and $20 in my pocket, and I was like, oh look, here's the remaster. I'm just gonna pick it up, and yeah, so that's it. I love it.
It's a great game.
That's all I gotta say about that.
All right. I'll hit a couple of games that I'm not as high on because I was talking about Disco Elysium and Ukulele. Those were really good games. I'm upset to say John Wick Hex.
No good.
No good.
Not a good game. It has so many cool ideas, and it's just not good.
Ah.
The thing, so it's a strategy game basically where it's a bunch of hexes on the ground. Hex.
Yeah.
And you are controlling John Wick, and every time you move a square or reload your gun or anything, time moves forward. And at the top, there's your bar, and then there's the enemy's actions. So what's happening is you're going through this area, you'll see an enemy, and it'll pop his bar up, and it's like, all right, I want to shoot. How much time will that take? And it's like, oh, the enemy's going to shoot before me, so I can't shoot right now. How about if I throw my gun at him? Okay, that takes less time. I could do that first.
Okay.
Really smart idea. I love the way that works. It's just not very well implemented. And it's janky. And the boss fight that I did, I played probably about an hour, hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
The boss fight that I did, it consisted of me just standing next to the guy, hitting him, he falls down, I shoot him, he gets up, I hit him, he falls down, I shoot him, he gets up. Like,
that sucks.
It's what I'm saying. They have so many good ideas, and they just didn't nail it. And it's upsetting because this is Mike Bithell who made this, which made Thomas Was Alone and Subsurface Circular, the dialogue-based puzzle game that I played last year. I like his games. I don't like this game.
Oh, that's a shame.
And the worst part of it is the replay feature. So when you're moving through this world, right, you're going hex to hex, you're clicking. So it's like John Wick's walking in one direction, then he's walking in this direction, then he pulls up his gun, then he shoots, then he rolls or whatever. So you think like replaying that in real, when you press replay, it shows it in real time. But the camera cuts and how stilted his movement is, it's like really bad looking, and I don't understand why they did it.
Yeah.
It's just strange to me in a couple ways. But I wish I liked this game, and I don't.
It's unfortunate.
It's
cool.
Especially unfortunate because you have a team like this is what gets me. Ready? You have a team like Clay Entertainment. They make Don't Starve and Grifflands and Invisible Ink. Beautifully drawn, amazing art. But Invisible Ink is a turn-based game. When their characters are standing still, they're like breathing heavy or like, you know, moving in something like, why couldn't they just do that? Because then the replay would look so cool. If his roll was like well animated or something, like it just could have been something different. And I'm not saying, I mean, if you don't have the artists to do it, you don't have the artists to do it. I'm not disparaging this developer. I'm just saying I see the game it could have been, and it just frustrates me.
Oh, too bad.
So yeah, that's John Wick Hex. I won't talk too much more about it. I was already reading some things that weren't so hot on it, so I wasn't going to get it, but I realized that when the Epic Store had their big sale, like around when Outer Wilds came out,
yeah,
it's a Epic Game exclusive, so I pre-ordered it because it was half off. It was $10 or something, and then I was like, I looked in there, I was like, did I end up doing that? And it was already in my library. I was like, oh shit,
that's funny.
I guess I'll play it. But yeah, John Wick Hex, unfortunately, a little disappointing. Another real stinker. Little Town Hero.
Oh, it's a turd?
It's a turd. I
No.
was looking forward to this game because it's by Game Freak, the guys that make Pokemon.
Yeah.
It looked really cool on the Nintendo Directs. I love the art style of it. The gameplay, like the combat looked interesting. It was like, it almost has like a...
Is it similar to Pokemon with like the
No. But it's turn-based,
okay.
but it's almost like a card system almost, because you have certain attacks that have... The attacks themselves have a health, basically. Kind of like Grifflands.
Okay.
Where like you're clashing... You're saying, all right, I want this attack to hit first and hit this attack, which will break it for him so he won't be able to hurt me.
Yeah.
And it looked really interesting. It's just tedious, and the story is bad and boring. It's just not a good game, unfortunately. Another one, yeah, I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun game, and it just isn't. So those are my two big stinkers.
Two turds.
Stinkers of the week.
Yeah. Shelby, not a stinker. let's hear about What the
Shelby,
Golf.
You're definitely not a stinker.
Dude, What the Golf is a great game. It's so much fun.
You finished it?
I finished the
You played
story.
through the main.
I played through
Yeah.
all of the levels.
Mhm.
And then each level has like 3 different
variants
variants for it. So I've played through them all once, and I've played about a quarter of them, all 3 parts of it. And it's so good. It's, you know what I really, really enjoyed about it? Like, yeah, it reminds me of loading up the computer, going on like miniclips.com and playing that little mini putt game, you know? But so much more fleshed out. And I think my favorite aspect is going into a level and then realizing, holy shit, this is this game. You know, like learning that like you jump into a level. And I think you touched upon this last time, how like they take a lot of inspiration in levels of other games, obviously.
Yes.
Not like ripoffs, but like
I'm happy.
So good.
I'm happy that they didn't rely entirely on that, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They sprinkle in references and like fun little jokes, but then they have their own jokes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not just reference.
Yeah.
You know, like.
And just golf puns every time you knock into
so
a computer
good.
and stuff.
So good.
Well, they open the game with just a bunch of their own levels that hook you right away.
Yeah.
You know, and then they throw in a little bit of it, like, and I'm talking like over a dozen like influence levels that are really cool. And there's like over 100 regular levels too.
Yeah, I know. I don't even want to spoil it.
I know, that's the thing, you know,
good.
like, but I do, every time you jump into a level, something else cool happens.
So
there's
good.
never a boring level.
And it's so funny, isn't it?
Oh, it's hysterical.
So many funny moments in that game.
And then like sometimes you transform into different things too. But yeah,
You
without
played on Apple Arcade?
I played it on Apple Arcade when it came to Mac last week.
Cool.
Yeah, so I've been playing it on my laptop.
Very cool.
Yep,
Glad you enjoyed it.
I loved it. I'm still playing it because I want to beat all the levels.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome game. I'm glad you got to it. I still have 2 other games here to talk about. Do you guys know what Killer Queen is, the game?
No.
Killer Queen is a 4v4 multiplayer game that was only in arcades.
Like
so
that
they were
back in the
literally
day?
No. It came out 10 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
It was literally 8 arcade cabinets all connected, and it was 4v4, and it was an awesome, fucking incredible experience because it's like it's just like hectic. The whole point, there are 3 different ways to win the game. It was like ride this slow moving snail from one side of the screen to the other, put in a bunch of little honey drops into your honeycomb, or kill the enemy queen. So the game is a 4v4. 3 people are like just worker bees, and 1 is the queen.
Gotcha.
Now the queen is super deadly and can hurt, like can kill anyone really easily, but if you catch her off guard and you kill her, so she has 3 lives. If you get all 3, she's done. And it's just kind of like a hectic running around, like, oh, that guy's on the snail. He's almost at the end. Go get him. Like, run over, kill him. You know what I mean? Like, it was such a fun experience. So they made Killer Queen Black on Switch and PC. Killer Queen Black is Killer Queen with new maps and online multiplayer, and it's the first time that it's not in arcades.
Cool.
It definitely loses something not being in arcades. But I could totally see this being a fun, hey, it's me and 3 friends.
Let's play.
Because you can play locally online, I think. I think you can do 4 people local and then play versus 4 people online.
So you say it's on the Switch, but
That'd be
can
great.
you take 4 remotes and play that way too? Like,
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I played probably a couple hours, like, you know, figuring out how everything works and then playing against random people. That's obviously not the best way to play. You should play with friends and whatever, but...
What if you don't have friends?
Well, make some.
Okay.
But really, honestly, it's a very cool, very fun 4v4 competitive game that I think would be a really great time if you have a group of people to play with. I know that you can do 2 switches and do 4v4.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Which is pretty
awesome.
cool. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
It reminds me, but that's what I'm saying. The matches are pretty quick, but it has that feeling of where, like...
It looks like that. What's the tower fall?
Yeah.
Like it's like looks like that.
Aesthetically, yeah.
Aesthetically.
It's more like Joust with goals other than killing the other team. That's what it is, really.
Awesome. Killer Queen.
Really cool game. I would definitely recommend it if you have a group to play with. I don't know if it's going to be a great experience solo, but that's Killer Queen. Shelby, I know you jumped in. I know you beat the Surge last time we talked. Now you're playing the Surge too?
So I picked up the Surge 2, came out a few weeks ago, and it picks up like 2 months after the first game ends. So now you're in this world. I'm really liking the changes. So the game kind of sticks true to itself as far as the gameplay. Like, you can still target parts of the body.
Mm-hmm.
You have that targeting system, which I love. I think it's incredible. You're a new character. You can create your own character, actually. So you don't really have a name.
Yeah.
Your plane crashes into a new city, Jericho City. You wake up in the prison ward of a hospital, or the hospital ward of a prison.
Okay.
And you wake up and like something's about to happen to you, and you the first thing you do is you grab 2 paddles and just shock the guy and get him away from you, and that's like your first weapon. You wake up and you got these 2 paddles. And then you're kind of walking through, and what happened at the end of the first game is kind of upon the second game. So, like, you're walking and seeing people, and they're kind of, like, all edged out and stuff because of, I forgot what it was called in the end of the first game. But there's something coming down with these nanobots and stuff like that are infecting people to make them kind of crazy and attack you. And everybody has these exosuits, but you don't have it at first. So you're kind of like, they show you the gameplay, blah, blah, blah. Get through it. The tutorial's really cool. What I really like is now that I'm into the game a little bit more, you had several weapon classes. You had your spear, you had your one-handed kind of like a sword thing, and then you had your two-handed heavy. Mm-hmm. Now you have like 8 options. I haven't unlocked them all.
Cool.
But I got to the boss of the prison. It doesn't take you long to get there. I'm talking the first 20 minutes, and it's like the prison warden. And he comes out, and he's got a drone that's shooting at you, and he's got this awesome armor set. So I looked at it, and I'm like, all right, well, I know he's a boss. I'm going to target his sick armor set because I know that I want that. It took me like 2 or 3 times as long to beat this guy, but I got it. I got the sick armor set pretty early in the game, so I know that that's definitely the best way to do it. I haven't fleshed out a ton of the story, but you meet some cool people in the beginning, and he's like, hey, you see that over there? That's kind of like a safe haven. Get over there. Join the rebellion, like stuff like that, because the city's just gone to chaos in that 2 months. And
it's a lot brighter, right?
A lot brighter because you're outside
like
for the most part, you're outside generally. And what they added, along with more weapons and stuff like that, is mini bosses, kind of. They didn't really have any of that in the first game. Like you went from your med bay, you would go explore. There were never really mini bosses. You would just explore, keep coming back to the med bay, find different shortcuts back to the med bay, which you still do. But now they have, like, you reach a mini boss and you're like, all right, I got to get over there. And the same sort of thing happens. You're like, so I could easily target a non-armored part of this guy, get through him, or I could go into a real freaking battle with this guy and try and get his armor set or his weapon. Like, that's the thing. You could be like, his armor set's sick. I'm only going to fight this guy once. He disappears.
Right.
Yeah,
So what do I want? Do I want better defense? Do I want better offense? Do I want a cool weapon? I just unlocked a weapon that talk about this one because it's kind of early in the first hour. It's a two-handed weapon, and this is a new thing for this game. And you could use it as a two-handed weapon with R2. I'm playing on PlayStation. You could use it as a two-handed weapon with the R trigger, or if you quickly tap the R1 trigger, you separate it into 2 smaller axes, and you have a lot quicker of an attack.
Man, this game sounds so cool.
It's really freaking cool. Still based off your stamina bar, so like you could evade, but then you run out of stamina, and then you can't like attack or evade again, and you might get
Dark
smashed.
Souls.
That's. I mean, they rip
obviously,
Dark Souls off immediately.
Any indication on if there are more bosses in this game? Because you said there are only a few main bosses.
There were
in the
only
first
like
game.
about 4 or 5 in the first game. I definitely did 2 mini bosses and 1 large boss. So yeah, I don't know how many large bosses
Hard
there
to
are
say because you don't know how long the game is.
I don't know how long the game is. I heard it's about the same as the first game, but I definitely reached this first boss quicker than I did in the first game. So I would assume there's a few more because I know that was like a thing that people were saying about the first game was there wasn't enough.
Right.
And the enemies are cooler looking. I think like some of them are policemen. you know, like, or guys trying to protect the city. And I know I walked up to 2 of them on one route and just got my ass handed to me. So I was like, well, I'm not going that way. But it's cool because I got 3 other ways I can go, you know? So I'm enjoying the heck out of this game right now. I
That's
just
awesome.
reached like this one big central hub area.
Cool.
So yeah,
Very
highly
cool.
That sounds
recommend it.
awesome, man.
That's
highly.
the Surge 2.
Look forward to hearing more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just have one more game to talk about here. Valfaris. This is a small little indie game that its whole pitch is, you guys know Contra, side-scrolling, shooting, dodging, you have whatever. So this is Contra, sci-fi with heavy metal. Everything is heavy metal. So like you're side-scrolling shooting and it's like really heavy, like awesome metal.
Nice.
And it has a little bit of like a Metroid, a little bit explore, find little bits of things. You save at these, it's almost like a Shovel Knight kind of thing where you find a checkpoint and then when you die you go back to that checkpoint. But in this case you have to put like a crafting item into it to activate it.
Okay.
So you can skip the checkpoint if you feel confident and save it and then keep rolling, and then you have more stuff to upgrade your weapons. This game is interesting because I don't think I like the way it plays, but everything else about it I like. It's such a cool aesthetic. The music is great.
It's like a blasphemous
boss
sort of
enemies are really well designed. It kind of is, yeah. Except for the fact that I don't think Blasphemous is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think this might be good, and I just don't like it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No, there's
I don't
definitely a
know
difference,
how to explain it better than that.
That happens.
But I really, if you've never heard of this game, I recommend just looking up a trailer for it or something because it is awesome. Whenever you find a new weapon, your guy just starts headbanging to the music and like holding the weapon. Like it's just such a cool looking game. It's almost like a really shitty polygonal, like, you know, PlayStation 1 graphics that are then pixelated over. Like it's hard to explain. You got to look at the look of this game. It's called Valfaris, Valfaris. I'm gonna stick with it because maybe I'm just too early on and I haven't gotten some abilities or something. But yeah, I'm not grabbed by this. And you know, I know I talk about this every episode, but a game like Disco Elysium comes out, it's 30 to 50 hours, and I'm super into it. I'd rather do that than play a game that I'm like semi feeling, you know.
Well, this game does look really cool.
It's a cool looking game. So yeah, again, that's Valfaris. I'll check back in if I play any more of it. And I think, unless I'm mistaken, I think that's it for what we've been playing. Not that was a small amount of games.
Yeah.
But so let's get into some of the news bits. First thing I'll say, because it's quick, Doom Eternal
Pushed.
delayed.
Yep.
March 20th, 2020.
I know, what the heck.
So multiple things on that. Number one, I was really looking forward to it. End of this year. It was supposed to come out in November. But there's a lot of games coming out this fall. Like this October, November. Like we're about to have a ton of games. So maybe it's not the end of the world. Except for the fact that February and March next year
It's also
It's
packed.
is way packed. Like crazy packed.
Between Last of Us and Cyberpunk
And Final Fantasy VII
Yeah.
and Avengers, and like there's so many games next February, March, April. It's insane. So yeah, I just wanted to mention Doom Eternal because I've been singing the praises of Doom, 2016, is that what it is?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've been singing the praises of that game for so long, so I'm super stoked for this one when it finally hits. All right, let's get into PlayStation 5. We got some details. They did another Wired article, like they like to do, about the PlayStation 5, and basically,
Have you guys seen the like rumored leaked look of this thing?
No.
This
yeah.
big,
So that's
giant
not.
thing.
Yeah. So that's
I-
not. I think people have basically solidified the fact that that's the dev kit.
Yeah.
So that's not really what it looks like, but it does look weird in the stuff that we saw.
Like that thing that came out. I don't know if they were intentionally trying to make it look like a big V because it is the 5, but
it's interesting. Yeah, it's weird. It's like a little spaceship.
Yeah, but the specs.
So we'll talk about that. Basically, the short version of what's in it. It's backwards compatible with PS4. Has a disc drive, right? They've been developing it for 4 years.
Yeah.
Their studio's already working on PS5 games. They're saying 8K graphics, whatever the fuck that means, and ray tracing. So they have a custom-made AMD CPU and GPU, and it's going to have an SSD, which people that play PC games, you know what that is. It's not a hard drive that spins up. It's a solid-state drive. Mm-hmm. So when you play a game from an SSD, there are like very few load times. And when you press play, you're in the game because nothing has to spin up and figure out how to start up and everything like that. They said holiday 2020. And, I mean, assumedly, we're looking at people are prognosticating how much it's going to cost. 400 would be the minimum, it looks like, which is
that's standard
to be expected at this point. But yeah, it's AMD Radeon is the CPU. Ray tracing is their big focus. And that's pretty much it for like, I'm not really the biggest tech guy, so I'm not going to go into like crazy details about what's under the hood, but people are excited because it sounds like they aren't lying about the no load times. They really are speccing for this is going to be a higher end PC basically, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
They said
the controller is basically a DualShock from what we've heard. Which
don't fix.
Yeah, why are you going to change it?
They talked about the more responsive triggers and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Is they can do force feedback on the triggers.
Cool.
So like
it'll push back.
If they want, it'll push back. So if they want to do like an impactful gunshot or something, and you want to feel like you really got to press it down.
That's cool.
It's interesting. If the developers want to use that sort of technology, I think that could be a pretty cool idea. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of how much it's going to be implemented.
We've had that in slight form, not to that extent, but driving games where you press the trigger a little bit, it goes a little bit, or
the difference is the feedback
from the controller. Yeah.
So you can they have you can do different trigger presses.
Yeah.
They can tell how much pressure you're putting, but they're not pushing back.
Yeah.
So we're talking about force feedback like that. So pretty cool stuff. Yeah. We don't need to get too crazy into the weeds on it, but that is the PS5 right now.
Cool.
I'm more excited to figure out what they're going to launch with.
Honestly, that's
that's the big question.
The interesting thing is, all their studios are making
their big games,
big games for right before.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I'm interested in.
It was like, is it going to be Death Stranding? Is it going to be Last of Us? Like, what they're
Well, it's not.
God of War came out last year.
The biggest thing I think is that
Insomniac
Horizon Zero Dawn sequel's got to be coming.
That's a pretty good bet.
That's got to. I mean, if it's not a. Here's the thing. If it's not a launch title, it might not be a launch title because launch titles don't always do great, and sometimes they don't perform the way you want them to perform.
Well, launch title. The thing about launch titles is they usually do well, whether they're good or not. Because when you buy a console,
you gotta get the game.
You're gonna get the game.
Yeah.
So it's smart. Sony's been good about this in the past, where like the worst Infamous game came out launching at PS4, but it sold the most.
Yeah.
Because it was out. Mm-hmm. I don't think it actually launched with it. I think it was
just after.
Yeah, like a month or two after. But what I'm saying is like they know if you get something out the gate.
Well, that's the only reason people bought Knack.
Yes. Can't argue with you on that one.
But a game like a sequel to a game like that, where
I think
that's
that would
so
be
beloved.
huge. I wonder if they would do that.
It would be huge, but
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's tough.
We'll see.
It's stuff to ponder.
But I will say, Sony Santa Monica, no way they're ready. They just made God of War.
Yeah, no way.
Insomniac just made Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog's making Last of Us.
I heard that Insomniac is still alongside doing that,
I know they have multiple teams.
Their VR team is like pretty strong. They make
They have a bunch
VR
of teams, I believe.
you know? So maybe they'll delve into that. Who knows?
Yeah, Sucker Punch is making Ghost of Tsushima,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
which is a PS4 game.
Yeah. So who knows what's going on there?
gonna be
Hopefully,
interesting.
I'm actually almost more excited than seeing sequels is to see a bunch of new IPs with this new
Yeah,
system. You know,
amen.
like that's
I
what
always
I would
like
love
that.
to see.
I always like that too.
Amen to that.
Except for Knack.
Yeah, sorry, Nick. All right, let's get into. We're way late on this because we record every 2 weeks, but Blizzard. You guys know anything about what's going on with Blizzard with the Hong Kong stuff?
Yeah, no, not to the extent that.
So
We should.
this started because on October 6th, there was a tournament, a Hearthstone tournament. And for anyone that doesn't know, I'm not going to get into a crazy amount of details about what's going on in Hong Kong because that's not my
That's
area
it,
of expertise,
yeah.
and I don't want to speak to something I'm not knowledgeable about. But the winner of the tournament was on the stream. It was a Blizzard thing, and he said, "Free Hong Kong, the revolution of our time." That's what he said, right?
Mm-hmm.
As he said this, the people that were casting the match dove literally under the table because they were scared of being on screen while that was said because they knew there were going to be repercussions. So what happened was Blizzard decides to come out, ban Blitzchung, the guy, from any Hearthstone tournaments for saying that, and withhold his winnings. Not only did they do that, they decided that the casters that were casting the game were fired on the spot. So really, really bad stuff there.
Jesus.
Now,
A little bit over the top there, guys.
yes, terrible, absolutely terrible. Now, Blizzard is part of Activision.
Right, so obviously
Activision-
they get money from
Activision is 10% or so owned by Tencent,
Mhm.
which is the biggest media company in China. And they get about $800 million in revenue a year from Chinese market.
So this is obviously just an example of they're making a profit and they don't want to risk their business deals at the expense of
Correct. And this
Humans.
has been a problem with other things too that are going on. I know
in the NBA, right?
in the NBA, yeah, Daryl Morey said something, like
He just said free Hong Kong.
free
That was
Hong
it.
Kong.
Yeah.
And they came back with the same sort of thing. It happens to coincide that the Rockets are the most popular team in China because of Yao Ming.
Right.
And so he's the GM of the Rockets. So, it is pretty despicable. I mean, we live in a capitalist society, so there's not much, like, what are we going to, this is how it is. You shouldn't be surprised by it, but it's upsetting nonetheless.
Well, because then it's putting profit before people, and when
Yes.
there's people,
But that is the capitalist way, though.
right?
People are disposable and money is not. So, a lot of people obviously are outraged by all this. You had employees of Blizzard on the front. I gotta find as you walk into the Blizzard headquarters, there's something that says "Think globally, every voice matters," and one other thing. And people that work there covered up the signs of "Think globally" and "Every voice matters" because they're like, "This is fucking bullshit. Like, this is our mantra, and you're saying every voice matters and
Right.
think
When
globally
someone
when
speaks their mind, and then you withhold
Yeah.
their earnings, and
it's not." But not that this would matter, but it's not like Blitzchung decided to have a 20-minute speech about his feelings. He said, "Free Hong Kong, revolution of our time." Like, I do not understand how you can take that kind of action against somebody. So it got even worse because they came out with a really shitty apology. That was complete bullshit. That was written by probably about 10 different people. And they said that they're going to change it to 6 months suspension instead of a ban. And they are going to give him his winnings, basically.
yeah, but they even suspend someone.
It's ridiculous,
It's like,
yeah.
what the hell?
So a bunch of people are basically protesting and like saying, review bombing Blizzard and saying, free Hong Kong in the reviews, whatever. They're trying to use Mei from Overwatch as a like symbol for like they're making videos with like anti Chinese government information to try to put Blizzard in a bad position, because if Mei, their character, is seen doing all this, the Chinese government is going to be mad and say, why is this happening, whatever. So we're not going too incredibly deep on this stuff. I'm just kind of giving broad strokes. Then a letter goes out just yesterday, I believe, from the U.S. Congress sent a letter to Bobby Kotick, the Activision CEO, that was signed off on by like many members of Congress that were basically saying this is ridiculous, blah blah blah, whatever, saying you can't do this. So it's getting pretty big.
This is huge. Yeah.
So
Seriously.
It's nice to see people are trying to hold them accountable. But we'll see if anything comes of it, because I'm not optimistic.
Well, unfortunately, money runs the world.
Yeah.
Where the money is, that's where the
cream.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. I will also say Nintendo's. So they were supposed to have an event at Nintendo World in New York City for the launch of Overwatch. This Nintendo posted. Please be aware that the previous announced Overwatch launch event scheduled for Wednesday, 10/16 at Nintendo NYC has been canceled by Blizzard. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause. And they went on to make another comment that was basically like, yeah, this has nothing to do with us. Blizzard is the assholes here. You know what I mean? And it was pretty funny because
that guy,
Nintendo hates getting involved in any sort of anything. And even they were like,
that's bad.
Yeah, that's on them. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we don't have to talk too much more about it. I just thought it was something we should bring up because it's a pretty interesting thing that's going on. But on that, we tend to like to leave these shows on really high notes. So let's continue that trend and say that's the end of this episode.
So Dan, your highest C note, go.
Me. That was beautiful, Dan. You sounded like the bard in Wonder.
That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to do Wonder song.
The vibrato.
Oh.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Dan, for being here.
Thanks for having me. And how are you?
Doing great. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we restarting the episode?
Shelby, thank you for being here.
Of course, as always.
And again, thanks, guys, for listening. You can catch us on the next episode of the Circle Back Podcast. Until then, peace. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching and or listening. Just here to remind you that you can find us by searching for Circle Back Podcast or Circle Back Gaming on any of these podcast services: Anchor, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, or Stitcher. By God, I'm out of breath because of all these podcast services, but you can find us anywhere there. Also, you can find our video version on YouTube by searching Circle Back Podcast or Circle Back Gaming, and the rest of the videos we do. Thanks, guys.